Iraq pushes to legalize child marriage as young as 9 years old. In a controversial move, Iraq's parliament is considering amendments to its personal status law that could dramatically alter family and marriage regulations, sparking widespread concern and protest. The proposed changes, pushed by the quote unquote coordination framework, a coalition of conservative and Islamist parties, this is important. It would shift power from civil courts to religious authorities in matters of marriage, divorce, and child custody law. Most alarmingly, its critics argue that the amendments could potentially legalize child marriage for children as young as 9 years old. Raya Faiq, a coordinator for a coalition opposing the bill, starkly warned this law legalizes child RAPE. The draft bill, it's still a draft bill, which passed its first reading on August 4th, would require Muslim couples to choose either Sunni or Shia doctrine for their marriage, with the husband's sect taking precedence in disputes. Despite fierce opposition from human rights organizations, activists, and some political parties, proponents of the bill insist that it is constitutional and, quote, does not contradict the constants of Sharia and the foundations of democracy. This contentious proposal has ignited a heated debate about women's rights, religious authority, and the future of Iraq's diverse society. So there's a lot there. I want to break down a lot of stuff first so people understand the nature of what's being proposed. So this is basically a proposal that moves a lot of the seat of power when it comes to quote unquote personal matters. So this is like marriage, inheritance, divorce, child custody from the civil government and into the hands of religious authorities. So this is really bolstering the authority of clerics and validating and legitimizing Sharia within the actual proceedings of this state. And how this would work is somewhat similar to how personal law is in India, where Hindus follow Hindu law, Muslims follow Muslim personal law, Christians follow Christian personal law, Zoroastrians have Parsi personal law. You know, it's somewhat similar to that, in which the amended law would allow men to decide upon marriage whether they follow Sunni or Shiite family law, and it would give clerics the legal authority over this. So let's give some examples. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The draft amendment would change inheritance laws in Iraq by mandating that inheritance operate by sect. Under the current law, which is based on Sunni inheritance customs, a woman whose husband dies inherits his estate. The amended law would allow Sunni women in Sunni marriages to inherit from their husbands, but would ban women in Shiite marriages from doing so in accordance with Shiite custom. Custody law is also differentiated by sect under the amendment. Sunni custody customs, which currently applies to all Iraqis, mandate that a divorced woman maintain custody over her children until they reach puberty, at which point the children can decide which parent to live with. Under Shiite law, the children's father automatically receives custody until he chooses otherwise. A woman seeking divorce from a Shiite man under the amended law would be forced to pay a sum of money to her husband to end the marriage. In current Iraqi family law, based on Sunni custom, a woman can request a separation and be granted a divorce by a judge if she provides adequate justification. One of the most controversial effects of the amended law would be the legalization of the pleasure marriage, a concept unique to the Shiite sect. A pleasure marriage is a temporary marriage which can last as little as an hour. Yep, look at Armin's reaction here. He knows what's going on. Unlike a permanent marriage, a pleasure marriage does not require registration in court or the presence of witnesses. Critics say that the legislation of pleasure marriage would be devastating to the status of Shiite women and can be used to legitimate child marriage and prostitution. So there is a lot to unpack here, but basically it is trying to split personal law in a way that is uplifting the legitimacy of Shiite jurisprudence within the Iraqi state. Because, for example, the law that all these conservative clerics are trying to get turned over right now was, I think, established in the 1950s, like 1959, back in the day. And so it is heavily influenced by Sunni customs. And so this is a way to try to uplift the legitimacy and validity under the penal code of Shiite customs. Now, the problem is that my understanding is that this draft is not taking into account the fact that there are other religions inside Iraq. That's one. Two, the problem is that this is handing over an extreme amount of authority to religious clerics. And third, the problem is that the Shiite custom that they are validating through these draft bills is specifically the Jafari school of Islamic jurisprudence. And according to the Jafari jurisprudence, girls can be married as young as 9. So people are completely outraged and they're like, we don't the problem is that since 2003 there have been extreme conservative movements within the government that have been trying to overturn some of these things that are currently in the penal code that have been in the penal code since like the 1950s to then make it more Islamic, make it more Islamist, make it more conservative. Um and I just forgot how I was going to finish that sentence. Oh my god. Oh, no, I remember. So apparently there have been other draft bills that they proposed that were way more extreme than this. Way more extreme than this. And they've been fought back multiple times. And now this is the latest one that they're saying like there was an activist that was interviewed who was saying like how far are we going to go in rolling back the clock? Do you want to go to a place where we are now legalizing slavery again? How far do you want to keep rolling back the clock if you're so intent in like repealing all this stuff from 1959? Um, so Armin, I just unloaded a lot of information, and I'm sure you picked up on a few key concepts in what I just unloaded that I want you to explain their significance to people who might not have the alarms going off.
Yeah. So the concept that you mentioned in Iran is called sighe, which you could marry somebody Islamically for even half an hour if you wanted to, even 5 minutes if you wanted to, right? 1 hour, 2 hours, you decide, okay? For a financial reward for the person that you're marrying, and you just read a Quranic verse and state your intentions and for how much money, and then you will be married to somebody for, however long you wanted to, and then you would have sex and that would be over. After that, your marriage is over, right? Which is basically prostitution, but Islamically. This is something that Sunnis hate about Shia Islam, because Sunnis correctly point out that this is just prostitution. And Shias defend it by saying that, no, we just said some magic words before, so that makes it okay. Right? So just
No, bro, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so basically, if I have sex with you, right, me with you, and then without saying these words, I should be executed for zina because I had illegal sex in Islam. But if I just read a Quranic verse and say the intentions, and I do the very same thing, not only should I not get executed, I'm actually doing something holy. Okay. And I'm being blessed. I'm blessing this woman. I'm blessing myself. I will actually be rewarded with sex in this life and with reward in the afterlife. The difference is just some Arabic words that I'm saying out loud, and the results are execution on one side and nothing at all. This is magic. This is basically just like, what is it like? Here's the thing: when I argue with mullahs in Iran, and you're like, your liberalism is destroying the foundation of family, and the family is the foundation of society. So you're just bringing down society with your sex and your liberalism and your, all these like disgusting stuff. I'm like, okay, what disgusting stuff are you talking about? Like, oh, boys and girls having sex out of marriage. I'm like, okay, but you're Shia, you have Sirah. I could basically do the very same thing and just say some Arabic words, and you would be okay with it. Like, wouldn't you be? Is that allowed Islamically? Like, of course it's allowed. I'm like, well, what's the difference? They're like, those things that you said, like, how does that make a difference? Like, oh, your atheist mind doesn't. So, like, one of these destroys the foundation of family. And if I say these Arabic words, now it doesn't destroy. Like, yeah, of course it doesn't. Now God has God's seals of approval. Like, okay, sure. I don't have to say anything. I just have to debate you and let the audience make their own judgment. One of them is the threat to the family. So why is it a threat to the family? Because husbands, if you allow prostitution in society, then husbands could go and like look at their wife and they look at these prostitutes and like, oh my god, they're hotter, they're sexier, and they're gonna want to have go sex with them, so they're not gonna have sex with their wives and blah blah blah. Like, okay, but you have sireh. All of that applies to sireh. You have that as well. Like, how does that not apply? So, anyways, that's a debate that I have with mullahs when I'm debating them on the Persian side, right? So
I don't
that's
see what the
one thing.
problem is.
um, Also, while you were talking, I was trying to look for this video. I can't find it because the Iranian government has this thing called Arba'in, and people walk to Karbala from Iran, and there's like they claim that they have 20 million people go there every year. They claim, like, are you fucking insane? 20 million people? 20? There's no way 20 million people are going. Like, that's like, what are you saying? Like 1/4 of the population of the country just left Iran? Like, I'm pretty sure that has not happened. Okay, but they spend a lot of money on making this pilgrimage every year from Iran to Hussein's burial ground, which is in Iraq, to make it. It's a huge event, and the government is a major source of government propaganda. The numbers, because the government constantly tries to brag about how much people power it has, and because they don't do a referendum and they don't do statistical reports to show that, because they know if they do that, they will see how low of a population they have. They use Arba'in, they use the pilgrimage of Iranian people to Hussein's burial ground in Iraq, and maybe some other people's presence in the streets to show how high of a number that we have. Because if anybody understands how crowds works, even if you have a minority of the people supporting you, if you could mobilize that minority and pack them into the streets, that crowd would look very, very big. And by showing the size of the crowd, many people would think like, okay, maybe they have more support than we have. Even if you only have 1% support, if that 1% is a dedicated 1%, if you bring 100,000 people into streets, you could, if I show you the size of the crowd, you might think that, oh my god, these people obviously have more than 8% support. But it's not. It's just that you could mobilize that 1% very effectively, or that 8% very effectively. Right? So that's why the government cares about the pilgrimage to Iraq so much. They spend so much money. These days, I saw a video, somebody saying like, I wasn't gonna go, but they told us that they're gonna hand out bananas, and now I'm going, right? Because these are poor people. No, seriously, this guy, I saw it like they're giving out free bananas. Like, I'm seriously like, okay, they are spending so much money. Okay, I'm going, right? So the government is spending so much money to make sure people show up to these pilgrimage stuff. But one video, so this is how this gets relevant to this news, right? One thing they mention is girls, right? And there was one guy, they get to go have sex, right? And there was one hidden camera. One guy is exposing this and say like, "Oh yeah, there's so many. What? Tell me what you want." And there was a mullah, the guy with the mullah, and like, "What do you want? What kind of girl do you want?" And the guy was like, "Oh, do you have this? Do you have this?"
He
And the
was
guy was like, "Yeah, we
pimping,
have this." Yeah, it was
pimping
pimping,
and
right?
pandering.
Yeah, pimping Iraqi girls to Iranian pilgrims, right? And he said like Hajjara, like means like holy guy, right? Uh, is anal sex okay with them? He's like, yeah, of course it's okay. You could do that. It's allowed. Just go gentle with them. This is a mullah speaking, right? And he said like how, and then he started talking about age, right? And he says like we have 12, we have 9, we have 11, whatever you like, right? So that's what the so that's why a lot of men go to this pilgrimage is because for getting laid. So that's part of the appeal, apparently. Yeah.
Look, I knew it was bad, but that's
No.
shocking. What in this video was he like in full robes
I'm gonna
and
look. Yeah, yeah, he was. He was. Yeah.
bro?
By the way, just so
How in God's name do you think you're a holy man when you're literally pimping and pandering little girls?
it's not pimping according to them because it's Islamic. They say prostitution is the label we have for un-Islamic relationship. Given everything that God makes okay is okay, it's marriage. They say they don't call it prostitution, they call it temporary marriage.
But they conveniently have a roster and menu selection.
Yeah, but because same with a wife. That's what they say. But anyways,
Oh, that
this
really
is why a lot of Muslims come and say like we have no slavery, sex slavery in Islam.
yeah,
What do you,
what do you
and I'm
mean?
like, what are you talking about? You have, like, I have the evidence. I'm like, no, those are the slaves that you're marrying. I'm like, how are you? What do you mean marrying? What do you mean marrying? She obviously she's your slave. She obviously cannot say no. Like, yeah, but it's marriage because it's within the Islamic framework. They call it nikah. As long as it's within the Islamic framework, they call prostitution marriage, and they calling basically RIPing your slave. They call that marriage as well. As long as it is, they call all of that nikah. Marrying your wife is nikah. Having sex with your slave girl is nikah. And prostitution, I mean, temporary marriage is nikah. They all see it as this. All of them is just basically legal sex. They call it all nikah, and they translate nikah in English to marriage, and they think like, oh no, that's not sex slave. That's my wife. Like, okay, but what is? How do you define that? And you're like, oh, okay, you're just redefining words. That's why. This is why I don't say the word nikah in Arabic should not be translated to marriage. Because if you're calling this marriage, then that's not how we use the word marriage in English. That's not marriage.
It's a contract. And there's many different
Yes.
kinds of the
Well,
contract.
it's not even a contract because you can't. You're not. I mean, okay, it is a contract when it comes to slaves, but not with the slave because she has no say in it. It's with her previous owner. So that's what the contract is with. Um, and also for people who are saying that like, oh my god, this is evil, but this is a unique Islam. This is not unique. I mean, the Shia temporary. Okay, so to be fair, the temporary marriage one, that is only Shia Islam. Sunnis don't have temporary marriage. Okay, but to be even more fair, they all have this part. Okay, so having sex with the 9-year-old part, again, YouTube, these are not our views, right? We're just informing how some other people. This is Sahih Hadith, right? So this is part of Sunni Islam. Shia Islam, they have their own hadith for this. By the way, in Shia Islam is actually worse because Ali did this as well. Ali had sex with Fatima when she was a minor as well, right? And they take Ali more seriously than Muhammad, right? But in Sunni Islam, at least when I say Sahih Bukhari, that means all Sunni Islamic schools of thought, they all agree with this, right? So it said the Prophet Muhammad married her meaning Aisha, when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, right? So this is what Muhammad did. If Muhammad did this, that makes it okay. By the way, this actually, Susanna, this actually gets worse in at least Khomeini's version of Shia Islam,
Dude,
like the
Khomeini was
Khomeinism.
a freaking degenerate.
Right, because the understanding by many people is that if Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6, consummated the marriage, means he had intercourse with her when she was 9, right? Yeah, yeah, it does get worse. So a lot of Muslims see this they mean that sexual relationship that is not intercourse is allowed before 9. That's how they read this, right? So maybe you cannot have, again, according to this, maybe you cannot have intercourse with her until she's 9, but you can do other things. And Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, the previous supreme leader of Iran, and the guy responsible for the Islamic Revolution in Iran, he was very specific about what that thing is. And should I describe what that thing is? I don't know. I think we're gonna get in trouble.
Let me think about how to talk around it. Rubbing.
No,
I don't know if we should describe it. Just
Google
thighing. Just Google thighing.
So imagine if you close your leg, right? Your thigh and your ankle basically touching each other. The understanding is that in-between area could be used like a hole if she's under 9. And this is published by Khomeini in his official book, and the Islamic Republic of Iran publishes that with this in there. This is their supreme leader. This is what the whole ideology of the Islamic Republic of Iran is based on Khomeini, and this is what he specifically said you could do before 9. And Susanna, how young before 9? Like, what's the minimum age according to Khomeini?
There is no minimum.
There is no. He specifically says in as young as infants. He says
to specify that is
yes,
diabolical. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry we discussed it. These
yeah,
very intense. Yes.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it speaks for itself. It really speaks for itself. And
this is an undeniable part of. So a lot of Iranians, the minority of Iranians who support the Islamic Republic, I have still not heard anybody giving us a defense for this, because this is an undeniable part of what Khomeini said. So I don't know how they defend this. Oh yeah, so Alfred is here. Alfred is saying what this is called. If you want to search for this, they call that act. You know, the thighing, like shoving it in the thigh. That's called. It has an Islamic name. This is an Islamic name for it. It's called tafkhiz. So you could go search that up. So thank you, Alfred, for giving us. So if anybody wants to go look up what this whole thing is.
Why would anyone ever have any resentment or distaste towards this ideology when you have special terms for special acts of CSA? Oh my God. Crazy. Crazy. Disgusting. Crazy.
Disgusting stuff.
Disgusting shit.
Oh my God.
That's one of my favorite memes. Disgusting shit. Sorry, I needed that laugh because this is horrible. And
okay, it's spelled tafhi. Okay, so it's pronounced in a different way. Okay, I'm gonna find this and put it for you guys in the chat so you guys could search this, because that's not how it's.
Yeah, we're not making this up. You can go validate it yourself.
Okay, so this is how it's actually written here. If you guys want to look it up, this is how you're supposed to spell it. Tafhim, I think. Yeah. Anyways,
did you end up doing that stream in English about how child marriage is not just in the Hadith, but it's actually Quranic as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah. because I'm so freaking sick and tired of people acting like the reason why child marriage is legitimate for girls as young as 9 has explicitly validated Islamic thinking.
What I mean, some people might think I'm making this up. I just want to make sure that I give them something so they could look this up
I
themselves.
know, but I don't know if people want to end up on a watch list, man.
Yeah. So you read the super chats while I look this up because I want to make sure that nobody thinks I'm making this up. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of these questions are for you, Armin.
Okay.
Well, I'll do the ones that aren't first. So Deborah just gave a super chat just saying thank you. Well, thank you, Deborah. Thanks for supporting the show.
Thank you.
John Bunduck is bringing up a really good point. Thank you for the super chat, John. Saying this coordination framework coalition runs off of a judicial coup. This is true. The militias backing them are Khomeiniist fronts that crushed the Tisreen movement and killed U.S. troops. Yeah. So the element of Islamic Republic influence in this is not something we discussed very much in this, but it's there. And John Bundock is saying how to make cutlet without mashed or ground potato have chips. I'm going to be honest, if this is a question for Armin when it comes to cooking, Persian cooking, you asked the wrong guy. And he's going to tell you, no, and you know, Armin, it's nothing personal, but I'm just keeping it real. And Armin would tell you to go ask ChatGPT. So
Well, I would ask you. I would tell them to go ask Susanna.
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like that's a fundamental part of cutlet. Like, I don't know. Also I'm not Persian, so I'm not as experienced in cooking Persian food. Although I do try. Oh Lord.
So this is Ayatollah Khomeini saying a man can. You want to read this? I'm disgusted
I
reading
don't
this too
do I
much.
have to read this? Oh my god. Okay, just to prove that we're not making this stuff up, you guys can go find this yourself. Oh my god. I don't know if I should say this because of like child welfare policies on the platform, Armin.
Okay, well, we are against this YouTube. I'm not gonna. Okay, so I'm not gonna read it out loud. This is how I'm gonna say it. So Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, saying a man can have sexual pleasure
Oh my god.
from a child as young as baby. However, he should not. Oh, this is actually very progressive. Look at this.
Oh
However,
god.
he should not penetrate. If he penetrates and the child is harmed, then he should be responsible for her subsistence all her life. Right? So, okay. This girl, however, would not count as one of his 4 permanent wives. The man will not be eligible to marry the girl's sisters. Oh, okay. Just talking about what matters. Anyways.
I don't know how people literally use pedophilia as a slander against the entire Jewish people when like this exists. Like holy mother of God. Or Hirschfield is asking, how can Israelis support Iranians better? Armin, you think about
The
this a lot.
best thing you could do is to tell other Israelis, like make sure that more Israelis know that the Iranian people are different from the regime. What we need the most is the understanding of the gap between the Iranian people, the divide between share the videos that the Iranian people are not walking, are refusing to walk on Israeli flags is the most powerful. What you could do is show that to more Israelis. And we need to build a bridge. Like if the Iranian people and the Israeli people are alone in the Middle East and they're surrounded by fanatic ideologies that wants to destroy them, and they share the same enemy ideologically and politically. They share their enemy ideologically is basically Islamic fundamentalism based on the fundamentals of Islam, and their shared political enemy is the Islamic Republic of Iran, the regime in Tehran, right? So what we need to do is to build that bridge between each other. We need a stronger relationship, and also we should be careful not to get disappointed because of the crazies from our side, right? So Israel, we have some actual religious fanatics, racist people, and sometimes when Iranians meet those, they might think like, okay, this is all of Israel. This is horrible. I didn't. They told me that Israelis are liberal. So what the hell is this? So we have to make them aware that no, this does not represent the entirety of Israel. And then we also have anti-Semites and anti-Israeli on our side, and we should just make sure that the pro-Israeli Iranians meet the more liberal-minded Israelis, and we need to build a connection and a bridge there. So uh, if you just talk to more Israelis and make them aware of that, it's important for us to, because nobody else is like, we are natural allies, and nobody else in the Middle East is going to come to our defense. We have similar values, we have similar enemies, so we have to defend each other in the Middle East. So that's what I
Can
ask.
I give a very good thing that Israelis can do to support Iranians better? Israelis
Right.
need to call out and hold politicians and public figures' feet to the fire when they even intimate splitting Iran's borders. There are
Oh yes,
some politicians that see an
Netanyahu's son.
allyship with the Kurds or try to weaponize Kurdish dissatisfaction as a way to undermine the Islamic Republic. You are going to lose, you're gonna be persona non grata to the liberal
Yes.
Iranian public if you so much as intimate, infer, hint at violating the what's the word I'm looking for? The validity of
Border integrity.
Iran's borders.
Border
Border
integrity.
integrity. Thank you. Don't do it. Don't You will turn the public against you so fast. You will build mistrust so fast. So if you see
Right.
public figures and politicians doing that in Israel, like call them out. It's so important. It's so important.
I can I actually touch on that, because thank you, Susanna.
Mhm.
That's actually a very important point. The worst thing somebody has done, one of the greatest damages to building this bridge, has been done by Netanyahu's son, talking about dividing the Iran into different segments. And so the among the very ideological religious people, they hate Israel because they're anti-Semites, they hate Jews, right? But among the more liberal-minded Iranians, they have no animosity. Like most of them don't have any animosity against Jews, but they're very sensitive about the border integrity of Iran. And that one view by Netanyahu's son posted has been very, very, very effectively been used to scare a lot of Iranians from Israelis, right? See that, just that one post by Netanyahu's son. So as I mean, Netanyahu himself is more clever. He constantly talks about, oh, Iranians ancient, glorious ancient history and past and superior culture and the Iranian people being good. So Netanyahu himself has picked the right narrative. Again, I'm not endorsing everything he does, but when it comes to talking to Iranian people, so one thing Netanyahu does that is wrong is that when he goes and talks about the Islamic Republic, he refers to it as Iran. I've seen some Israeli officials who have realized that they shouldn't be doing that. They should say the Islamic Republic instead of Iran. So that's good. But Netanyahu himself needs to say the Islamic Republic instead of Iran so that it doesn't group the Iranian people with the regime. And also, Netanyahu needs to come and talk more, be more appreciative of the Iranian people being so pro-Israeli. Like I saw his speech in Congress in United States, he didn't thank the Iranian people, and that was a major disappointment. But the main thing you need to do is to say that to as an Israeli, if you want to build a unity, because we need each other, right? Is to talk about how great Iran is as a country and how it deserves much more than the regime that it has, and do not ever talk about dividing the country. That is the best way to make sure the Iranian people get run to the other side, right? That's horrible. That is, do not ever mention that. Do not ever advocate for that, right? And also, when I say they both need each other, because one of them has the people power, the other one has the military power. The Iranian people do not have the guns to fight against the Islamic Republic, and the Israel. So, but also the greatest weakness of the regime is the people being against it. So if you want to, so the Iranian people are appreciative of Israelis taking out the high official. So for example, when Israel kills Zahedi in Syria, that's the guy that in Iranian streets attacks Iranian people. So when Iranian people see Israel killing that guy, they're thankful because that was the same guy that on Iranian streets was attacking Iranian girls for not having hijab. That was the same guy. So they say like, thank you. We don't have the military power. You're making the Islamic Republic weaker by taking out these key officials. So thank you for that. But at the same time, the Israeli people need to be grateful to the Iranian people because the Iranian regime will never come down unless the Iranian people eventually get strong enough to be able to take it down. So if you want to be the anti-Islamic Republic, your greatest weapon is the Iranian people. Anyway, sorry, I went too long.
Oh, no. No. It's all relevant. AJ gave a super chat saying, "Hey guys, can the Iranian government become lenient and secular once Khamenei dies?" Armin, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, mainly the hashtag deep state.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Wait, can Iranian government become lenient and secular? The Iranian government, this government, no. I mean, this government. I mean, okay. If Iranian government is secular, then it's not the Islamic Republic. So the government cannot become liberal. This government cannot become liberal. This government can definitely be replaced by a government that is liberal, because the Iranian people are very liberal and secular. Yeah.
And speaking of Iraq, John gave a super chat saying Mohammed Al Sidani was human rights minister under Maliki. I'm not exactly sure what the relevance is here. I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable about contemporary Iraqi politics, besides the fact that Maliki had tons of anti-Sunni violence. I'm not sure, but thank you for the super chat. Kenny is asking a good question, which is, are we still monetized?
Let me actually check. I don't think so.
In the
Oh, we
meantime,
are. What? We are. Yes.
wow.
Wow. But
Um,
guys, I could promise you that once the stream is over, because these days that's how it works. As soon as the stream is over, that's when we get demonetized. So when we get demonetized, we get deprioritized as well. So I need you guys to like the stream. Like the stream, please, to so that more people end up seeing the stream, because the demonetization makes less people see the stream. Yeah.
John gave a super chat, excuse me, just a super sticker. No comment, just a super sticker.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
And
you.
HD
Thank
Drake
you.
gave a very generous $20 super chat saying, "It blows my mind how profoundly sick Islam is regarding the treatment of women and girls, yet at the same time, two adult men loving each other requires the death penalty." Oh, naturally.
Well, because you're sick, because you're thinking with your human mind. Okay. If God is real and you believe in Him and you submit, then you will realize that your personal emotions cannot definitely be the right way to understand what is good and right. Obviously, the Creator of the universe understands right or wrong more than your mind. It's not Islam that is sick; it's your mind that is sick, and a mind that is in line with God's understanding of creation, that is a healthy mind. That is a full submission. You could only be fully healthy if you're in line with the creator of the universe. So you are ill because you're not in line with Islam. You haven't fully submitted. Obviously, you're too full of yourself, thinking as a mortal, as a creation of God, you could understand how to live a better life more than the one who created the life. That's the Islamic
Hmm.
answer.
And this is just a comment that I think is hilarious. SOA here in the live chat has been calling for the death of Zionists in the live chat, trying to get past YouTube's algorithm and freaking out and saying Zionist and Islamophobic. This is a major crime. Well, consider us public enemy number one.
Oh, proudly so.
um, bad boys, what you gonna do? I just love to see the cope and seething. Um, Engaged American, oh, just gave a super chat saying God clearly needs to submit to the Tao. We are like the AI that is now greater than our creator. Your wisdom is abounding today, my friend. Um, so
We
let's
need
go.
to
Oh,
thank you. Oh, we got another.
John Buckendock just gave a super chat saying, "Have you seen Iran freedom activists work with Syrian opposition or Arab Spring activists, i.e., the three-star flag? If so, how has it gone? P.S. Maliki was awful." Oh, that's not disputed. Um, have I seen? I have not that much, but this is not
So,
an area that I'm super familiar with.
yeah, I mean the Arab Spring activists, a lot of Iranians have become were disappointed in that because they think that like Egypt, for example, it seems like once they got rid of the dictator, they voted for an Islamist regime, and that's why a lot of Iranians think that maybe these people are not mature enough to have the democracy, right? Because they Iranian people, again, I'm not saying what some Iranian people think, it's not all of them, and I don't want to generalize, but so one narrative that I see in Iranian circles is that if Iran gets rid of its dictators, it will bring secular democracy. But in Egypt, when you get rid of a dictator, they're bringing the Islamists. So maybe they say that maybe these people are not ready for democracy. So that's the top down. Again, I'm not saying that, but that's what the narrative that I'm hearing, right? When it comes to Syria, I haven't seen any cooperation between activists, but one narrative that I've seen, whenever Syrian activists are mentioned, the main narrative that I'm hearing all the time is the fact that the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic, went into Syria to not to fight ISIS, but to fight the freedom activists. Because when the Islamic Republic, because the Islamic Republic constantly acts like they went to Syria to fight ISIS and they should be congratulating for fighting ISIS. But if you actually look at the IRGC's officials came out themselves and said that that's not why we were in Syria for. When we went to Syria, we were there to save Assad from these freedom fighters. ISIS came after. That was our mission was to fight the freedom fighters who were trying to take down Assad.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.